to compete with that king. So now they're going to destroy all the masculinity. So now you're seeing all males being destroyed. How many males are being so damaged right now? It's sad. Like, they're going over and buying. Listen, y'all, if your wand isn't working, you should sue the federal government. If your wand stopped working and it isn't getting as nice and stiff as it used to, you should sue the government. I'm telling you. The food is being compromised with hormonal blockers. They're putting hormonal blockers in the food, in the sky. They're putting it everywhere. So a lot of men are not even able to have full erections anymore. I'm sorry I'm blowing the spot, but it is what it is. I mean, it's bad too, because now that Queen Lizzie had supposedly passed away, now they're attacking males in the droves. And I tell you, males, if you have sun sea stars, you need to take those babies and go move into the forest or the jungle, and don't tell anybody where you are. Dig yourself a nice hole underneath the ground and raise your little boys, because they coming for the males. Just like in the biblical, wasn't in the Bible when they went to destroy all males? You think they just killed them. See, a lot of times you think the stories in the Bibles are just basically historical accounts of how they genocided before. Whenever a king he was jealous. He didn't want to make sure no males would come with him. It wasn't that they murdered. You think that they murdered the little boys? No, they didn't. They probably just took away their virility. They muted them, made them into females, castrated them. Yes. Turned them into the others. Eunuchs. Yes, Joshua. So that's all they did. So you need to listen, because a lot of you moms, like, I go to the store, and I'm real funky with what I buy. I'm very restricted on what I purchase, especially for my children. And I go into stores and I see mothers, what they put in their carts. Oh my God. And they got sons. I had to tell one of the women, I said, listen, maybe I'm not in a position to share this with you, but I'm going to share this with you now. All the stuff you put in there, if you have little boys, you're going to create boys that don't like girls. Or you're going to have boys that are going to have testosterone, lower, and will suffer from forms of, feminism. Like you see a lot of males on social media. They talk a lot. They're very chatty. That's very feminine. They go and get manicures and stuff like that. Males don't do things like that. Males are not even very talkative. A very masculine male is very stoic. He's very calm. He's not talkative. Communication and stuff like that is very female. All these males on social media talking and wearing nail polish, that's all because they're being chemicalized. It's bioweaponry 101. Okay. So I tell the moms, you got them plastic bottles. I don't care if they say BPA free. All plastic bottles are estrogen mimickers. It will destabilize the hormones. All of them. They will tell you now BPA, because that's the buzz. BPA, everybody's worried about BPA, so they decided not to move any plastic, because then you got to say, what kind of plastic is that made of? When it gets warm, because most shipments of plastic bottles and other things are shipped from countries where it's hot, where it isn't being temperature controlled all the time. What kind of chemical is being leached into that plastic bottle? Okay? You got to ask that. Then you got to say to yourself, where do you live? If you're living in a place where there's a heightened amount of homosexual males and it's odd, the hardest species to switch. And I talked about the gay bombs. You guys thought it was a joke. The military, and you can look it up because everybody gets mad at me. Why are you mad at me if you are a victim? You shouldn't be mad at me. You are a victim of forms of chemicalization and bioweaponry by your Willy Wonka systems. You are a victim. Don't get mad at me just because you are now switched into something that was purposefully done to you. You should work on suing the freaking Willy Wonka system that did that to you, or your sons. If you're living somewhere and there's a heightened amount of males that are flipped and are same sex, you need to think to yourself, what is in the water system? What is in the water system? Because the easiest way, that's why they wanted to control all the water. That's why they don't let you dig wells. You can get fined on your own property for digging a well. Why would you get fined? You got to ask yourself, why are you getting fined? Why would they fine you from locating water source underneath the ground? on your own property that you purchase. Because the best way to infiltrate any people is through their water system. And they can't do it if you have independent water sources like wells. They can't do it that way. So they got to make sure that you all are tapped into the same source of water so they can all purposefully and nicely chemicalize you and bioweapon you easily. Okay? So mothers, if you have sons, I'm letting you know, allegedly, because I'm not a doctor, because remember, Willy Wonka likes to mess with me. I'm not a doctor or anything. Get your sons out of the United States. And if you're living here, you need to go somewhere and you do what I said just a minute ago. Okay? Because your boys are being indoctrinated with all kinds of social media, which is basically every show now has boys kissing boys. You can go on any show now, especially young people show. Back in the days, they didn't propaganda. You see little children's shows like animals playing and, fun stuff. Now, everything is sexually changed and modified, and it's infecting your children's subconscious. And if it doesn't get your son, he's hanging out with other parents that don't care about their children because they don't know. It may not even be the kid. They don't know. So now you got unconscious parents creating more unconscious sons. So your son might be told to have oral sex with his friend because his friend has been indoctrinated and under forms of bioweaponry. I'm sorry. Am I bothering you? I'm sorry. Am I purple pilling this? I'm sorry, y'all. I apologize. It is what it is. You allow the government too much insert into your life. All forms, either they're going to listen. If you're sending your child to school with other children, by default, even if you're a parent that is being mindful of what your child eats, drinks, listens to, they're going to school with children that are being frequency assaulted and are under mind control programming and with unconscious parents. So those children will influence yours. That's why they're happy to have school. School wasn't to educate you, to make you higher, to make you more efficient in certain things. It was to put your children in a position to make them more mind controllable and also make them into drones. How wonderful was that? It's important for you. I want to talk to moms about sons because as women, we know. Girls, I already talk about the girls all the time. I'm telling you, moms of sons, you need to, if you're going to stay in the fakes, and I told you, I don't suggest you stay in the fakes. I'm sorry. I know people like, oh, she's a defector. I don't have any loyalty to anywhere. I wouldn't have loyalty to any country that doesn't have loyalty to me and mine. So when people say, oh, she doesn't have loyalty, do you have loyalty to your enemy? You have loyalty to do you have loyalty to a country that is trying to kill you and your offspring? When people say that to me, I was like, they're mind controlled. The fact that you're saying that I am a defector and I don't have why would you have respect for? So you would stay with a man who disrespects you and calls you out your name constantly? You would think it's okay to stay with him? That's what you're telling me when you say, oh, why are you saying about the country? I didn't have a choice and my parents came here. And yes, at the time, I had certain perks and privileges when the United Fakes was still faker. But now it isn't as fake anymore and everything's out of the closet. So I opt out. Okay? If you have boys, get them out of the country. If you're going to stay, you're going to have to do a lot of work, y'all, because you're going to have to keep them away from all the other indoctrinated little boys. Because if you hear about all of that, that's why they have these books in elementary school telling little boys how to have oral sex with other little boys. When have you ever seen that? And it's an assault on boys. You don't see it as much with girls. You're seeing it on boys. And I would not trust, like, listen, if you have a son, and I'm not one to say because I don't have a grown son, but if I had a son that's in his twinkling years, I wouldn't trust him sleeping over other little boys' houses because the things that these little children are being promoted to doing, and a lot of children are being touched by other relatives and being switched. We have a king that's now in rulership, so old boys will be destroyed. So they're going to make boys into girls. That's what they do. And people are like, well, in other countries, do they do it? Yeah, there's other forms they're trying to, but not every country is we're in a Satanist country. We're living in Satanism. And if you know anything about Satanism, it's all about inversion. It's all about inverting everything. So in that itself, You know that if you're raising a child in here, they're going to invert and make everything that's perverted right. They're going to make everything that you perceivably would think was wrong initially in your mindset as a parent and make it into something right. And money is all spelled. All the fiat. Then I don't know why you guys get upset that they're getting rid of physical cash, because all of that money has all those sigils and rituals all over it. Why would you even want to touch it? I told you before, the richest, wealthiest people have the most limited contact with physical money. It's spelled. It's ritualized. Every time you touch a physical bill, it literally, you're being spelled. Okay? So even if they change the currency and make it into something else, currency is something you have naturally. You don't have to necessarily accept all forms of currency just from them and their exchanges. You can create that. Currency is current. It's current, and see, it's currency. You create it yourself. Okay? You create energy. And if you accept that you're limited and the only way that you can be abundant is through them, then you're going to live a life like that. That's why you got to be careful around being with people who will compromise their life and anything for fiat. Like if someone is always compromising for fiat, then that isn't somebody you could trust. Like if someone will compromise their physical autonomy, their health, for 15% off groceries to take shots that they normally wouldn't do, that means they're compromisable. Those are people you shouldn't trust around your family or anything, because if people will compromise just for something so simple, $50, someone will take $50 and tell all your business, or $50 and, go and do things like that. And let me speak to the men, like even Jamoji. Let me give a shout out to Jamoji. And I think I spoke about this before. I'm not going to stay on too much longer because I'm going too far. But even with Jamoji, big up to Jamoji because she gave this information. She was saying that her cousin was in the prison. Okay, so I'm talking to the guys who were locked up because I know some of them listen to me. And let me explain something to our Sun Stars and Sea Stars who are locked up. Once you're put behind those walls, they want to get your DNA and access to it. And if she was saying that her cousin, they were offering the males $50, which is nothing. $50 to give their sperm and to use it. And they were put in cells with their same blood types. Why do you think they're able to weaponize shots of mass destruction? Because the men in prison feel desperate and will sell out their DNA for $50 because they're confined and they feel desperate and they don't have access to maybe outside resources. So they compromise their DNA. And guess what? If you share the same DNA with them, guess what? The next time they make a Kukarachi shot, guess who's going to be affected and probably have some sort of weaponized health issues? I'm sorry. Am I ruining your peace of mind? Sorry, y'all. Sometimes I'm not really that hostile in my life, y'all. I'm really not. I get all amped up. Please put a like on my video if you're up for the shenanigans today, y'all. I say I come on here, I'm not gonna talk about everything, but then I end up doing it. Isn't it crazy? I say I'm not gonna come on here and just totally talk about everything, but by the nature of being, and it's crazy because I'm 3 Sages, it's harder for me to hold back on the other 2 Sages. The first Sag will get it, will be like, okay, you can't talk about everything. Then the second Sag will say, well, screw that. We could talk about anything. But, then the third Sag is like, screw that. Let's just let it all out. It's like 3 of me in one. It's a shame. And then you got aliens coming off the ship Nibiru, coming over the border. I actually feel safer with the immigrants coming off of Nibiru than I feel with the fake government, Satanist government. That's the crazy part. I gratefully feel safer with some of these men coming in because I look at the governmental system. These motherfuckers are trying to kill everybody, allegedly. These motherfuckers are weaponizing the food. They putting everything in the... Oh, that's a nice car. They putting everything in the food. They coming over the border. They being dropped off ships. They being dropped off the ship, coming to the neighborhood. Let me talk to y'all in the Midwest. I've gone abroad, and I think it's smart. They're lizards. Charlotte said they're lizards. They probably are. They clone Tyrone. Y'all, I've gone out of the country in Mexico. Well, I just came from Mexico. Let me tell you. You think it was me telling you to leave the country? I'm telling you right now. Everybody left the country. A lot of Lunars from the Midwest left. They left. I talked to them. They left the country, y'all. Woo! They left. So they got the memo. The rest of you, I feel bad. I feel sorry. I do. Because they're surrounding the Midwest. They going straight for the lunar males up in the Midwest. They coming for y'all. And I don't really... At first, I was like, well, the lunar males in the Midwest, they've been stockpiling since their grandfathers were in World War I. They'll be okay. No, I don't think that anymore because there's too many of these aliens coming in here. There's too many. And they did the same like they did when they colonized the United States. They're making sure that for every one lunar male that's stockpiling, they got like 30, 40 motherfuckers for you. It's really scary. It really is. It's very sad. So I just say, because it's mostly women on here. I don't know how many lunar men are on here, but y'all, I'm giving you the heads up. Most brown people, I told you I'm not a Negrotarian. I don't really abide by any of the so-called, racial limitations. I'll share with everybody because I feel like if you hear this message, it's meant for you to hear it. I would be careful. See, because Idaho's just got hit again. And if you notice, there wasn't a time that Idaho was ever hit like that. Like, Idaho is one of those places, like, a lot of Lunars live over there. It's not, like, maybe drugs and stuff maybe is in the Midwest, because they do a lot more, because that may be boredom, recreational drugs. But when I see that they got all of these, they weaponizing them, they're giving them weapons, y'all. And they're doing frequency, they're doing maturing they're doing maturing activations in Idaho. Like with that shooting, they had the shooting warning like 3 months ago and they didn't take it seriously and they shot up the school. Then remember those 3 girls? What was it? 3 young ladies, cutie pies too. Who are the girls? Remember the girls in Idaho? Really pretty girls, college students. Remember the 2 girls, y'all? Remember, very sweetie pies, the little girls in college. Blonde. They were both blondes, and there was like 2 others in the house, and they all got assassinated. That was all they working on Idaho, and that right, the Idaho 4. Yeah, it's very sad. Yeah, they're working over there. They're triggering maturing candidates over there. That's what they're doing. They're working on. See, they're gonna do that first. They're gonna trigger all those who chipped up, the sleeper cells, and then they're gonna surround them with them freaking crazy aliens that are in here. They listen. If you think that I'm trying to scare you, go and look at the first police candidates, the police academy that just allowed illegal aliens to become officers and join the academy. When have you ever heard of that? They're not citizens. They haven't been legitimized. We don't even know where they came. They came off of ships. You don't even know what ship they came off of. How do you verify what country they're coming from? Anybody could come from over the border. They just basically, they're giving them weaponized phones to activate the maturing candidate inside of them. Okay. The sleeper cell, they're activating them. They're coming all over the border. How do you know where they're coming from? Okay. Be careful, Lunar. I'm talking to my Lunar Sea Stars because I love my Lunar Sea Stars and I want them safe because, they've been rocking with me. I want them and their family safe, especially women with children. I'm very sensitive to that. I want y'all to be safe. So I say, listen, Sea Stars, my Lunar Sea Stars and my Lunar Sun Stars in the Midwest, I wouldn't even try to fight. I don't know. Listen, Willy Wonka got all these weaponized aliens over here, and we can't even distinguish what planet they came from. nonetheless what country they came from. We don't even know what they got. They could have payloads in their body of viruses and mass destruction. We don't know. But they're targeting y'all. I know that much. I will tell you that. I know that much. And what I know and see, they're targeting y'all. And I see them, they're testing, they're doing like beta tests, they're doing little things. Like with the Idaho, that was maturing candidate activation. Then they did it with the school last night. They're activating these bastards, okay? They're bastards. Be careful, Sea Stars. And especially when you have children, I want y'all to be careful. I want you to pay attention. And the ones that they're sending over by y'all are not going to be so easily discernible. Remember, you forgot how many Ukrainians came in here? Do you remember? I think Sea Stars, you got to realize, you're thinking it's the brown and Asian ones that are coming there. No, they're going to cloak the people with the areas that match the type of look. They're not sending the Negroes to you or the Asians to you. They're sending other lunar looking people towards you. Because you would be able to discern friend from foe. Because remember, it's mostly lunars there. You wouldn't accept having a whole bunch of brown people coming into town. That's just what it is. But you wouldn't know the difference if you see a lunar guy dressed like a yuppie. How would you know the difference? Be careful and just be mindful. And with your little ones, don't just let them go all over the place like that anymore. This is just my advice. Okay? Because they're sending, remember, you don't remember how many Ukrainians they let in the country, y'all. How many Ukrainians? Do you remember? No, none of you remember. The Ukrainians are not brown and they're not Asian. How would you know the difference if someone is dressed like an American? You wouldn't know. They're not sending those people. When I say they're surrounding you, y'all automatically think it's brown people. They're not going to do that. They're not stupid. That's why they send the brown ones over to brown areas and Asians over to Asian areas, because they can mix in with the group. They're not stupid. This is warfare, y'all. They know that you're up on it. So just make sure you look. Just pay attention, Sea Stars. Alaska, I don't think they really... I don't know that they really messing with y'all in Alaska like that. I haven't looked. I have to look into that. I haven't heard anything about Alaska, though. You're kind of close to Russia. So I don't, how many Ukrainians did y'all let in? Because I don't think many people know that. How many Ukrainians did you let in?